been following along, you know, I'm building a reference application for experimenting with cloud native technologies. And so check out some of those earlier videos to get caught up. We are finally to the point of actually building one of these services that we want to get deployed. And this service will do most of the reading and writing to and from the CouchBase instance. And so it's one of 3 services that we want to get built out right off the bat. And that's of course, a REST router that we'll be able to call into one of these services, and then a front end application as well. We're going to use our gRPC Go template that we built out in episode 4. So we'll create a repository out of that template. We will clone that into a project here on the machine, and we'll go mod init it. I did not, so the template has not been initted. We also need to grab our private package that we built in episode 4. That's the package that has the entity model in it. Check and make sure everything opens up in GoLand okay. We need one more dependency. We'll need the Go CouchBase clients. So we'll start in by creating the app.proto file. That's what gRPC uses to generate the protocol buffer code. So it will initially wire it up by naming it. I do have a kind of a stub of a app.proto in the template. So once we get it named, we'll start to build out the messages, and these will back the data model. So once we have the protobuf messages, we'll write RPC signatures that reference those message types, and these are the functions that we want to expose to clients that call this service. And so here's what the app.proto looks like once we've got all the messages and RPC calls that we want to have in it. And then I put a makefile task to call the protocol generator. Protoc reads app.proto and builds out the protocol buffer code in Go. So it'll build out two Go files that have that. So, and this is the command here. So that makefile, I have the script referenced in the makefile, runs protoc like this. So when I made out the template, I left some things commented out. So we'll need to fill in the gRPC items that we know about now, since we've actually generated our protocol buffer with a name and everything. So this is the process we'll follow for each time we use this template. And the functions now have values in the protocol buffer, so we'll be able to actually access those. I alias the protocol buffer with protobuf, and that receiver will be the receiver that we use for anything that we need to access out of the protocol buffer file, out of the protocol buffer. So now I put in a script to actually generate the certificates that we'll need for both the client and the server side. That's also referenced in the makefile. I'm also going to initialize slog. This is just bare minimum for logging right now. I'm going to do an entire episode on getting structured logging set up for Elasticsearch, but this will give us minimal logging that'll help us as we're debugging this. So now we're to actually coding the service. We'll implement the gRPC protocol buffer functions. We'll write service functions that interact with the database, and then we'll transform the data to and from the protocol buffer, from protocol buffer entities to model entities, and vice versa. So for each one of the RPCs that we defined in app.proto, we'll need to write a function that implements that. And that satisfies the interfaces that are set up in the protocol Go that was generated. Once we have the remote procedure calls set up in the service, we'll need to actually create service functions. This service layer or service package will do all the interaction with the database. So this service is focused around basic CRUD functionality. So we'll have service functions that implement that, and they'll be called from those RPC calls, those remote procedure calls that we defined in the service as well. So those RPC calls will be exposed to the client. Those functions will call into here, into this service layer. And then we'll also need to go back and forth between protocol buffer to model entities, and from model entities to protocol buffers. So we have a data transform package that handles all of that. Again, it's not very complicated code. It's basic assignment where we just dereferencing and referencing pointer-based protocol buffers into the model. The database service is interacting with the model entity, so that transform needs to take place. It also gives me a point where I can have some flexibility between the package, the model package that I implement, and the protocol buffer. And it also gives me a point where I can do some validation as well as I move back and forth between the protocol buffer and the model. So that basically gives us what we need for the server side of it. Now what we want to do is we want to build some tests out. So I'm going to stop this episode here. And then in the next episode, I'm going to concentrate on wiring up tests, and we're going to figure out what works in this code and what doesn't. It's a lot of code. It was a lot of repetitive code, but we got to go through and see if it's working like we think it should. And if it is, in episode 9, we'll go in and we'll actually create the last part that goes into this service, and that will be the client package that will be consumed by anything that wants to implement the client to make these calls. So that's it for this one. I hope to see you in these next couple of episodes where we get this thing finished out, and I'll see you then.